Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Monomyth Diaries, a podcast where ordinary people get to share their hero's journey. I'm Mandi.
And I'm Karen, and we'll be your hosts.
We'll discover powerful insights, critical moments of growth, and much more.
Thanks for joining us. We all have a monomyth to share, and someone out there needs to hear it. Welcome back to the Monomyth Diaries, where it's a take what you like and leave the rest podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking about reflections and why reflections are important.
We recently had two guests whose monomyth sent us down this path of self-reflection. What they shared with me really gave me pause and really triggered for me to connect the dots on a daily basis of what is most important. I realized I was getting consumed by the worries of this world, of the daily grind, of just life in general. And their stories really had a grounding effect on me.
We're talking today about Nikki's monomyth and Sarah's monomyth. And I think for me, when I think about those two, when I reflect, I think about the personal application of their stories, the personal and practical, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of how I can apply the things that I've learned into my daily life, same as you.
So Nikki's story was one that was a very powerful testimony on finding faith through life's challenges. Her story on just how she came to faith and all the circumstances that kind of launched her into that space.
And when you reflect on Nikki's episode, what do you think about it?
Well, I kept going back to how intentional she became in prioritizing her relationship with God. I have this mental picture of her sitting on a camp chair. And just to be clear, I've never been to this space she's talked about. She shared a story about this, what she does, but it imprinted this very strong mental image of her sitting on a camp chair in a giant field in the middle of nowhere with just her Bible and a journal, unplugged from the world, but in tune with the Spirit.
Yeah, completely. She's in the middle of nowhere. No house, no tent,
no plumbing.
No plumbing.
And the fact that she makes time to go and do that, to engage in that, on a very consistent basis, it told me, she's feeding her soul.
Yeah, she's taking care of herself and fostering her relationship with God. I like that word, intentional. She is very intentional.
Incredibly.
For me, when I think of Nikki, I remember in her episode, I talk about how there's a phrase that I use, attraction over promotion. And she lives her life with integrity. All of her words match her actions. And she doesn't go around preaching how to live your life.
No.
She just leads a life of integrity.
Yeah.
And it attracted me to want to be more like her.
Yeah. Her actions are almost like her sermon, so to speak. Literally, her actions are speaking louder than her words.
How about Sarah's monomyth? Hers was about growing up in a family that was consumed by addiction and how all of those effects bled into her relationships moving forward. All of her adult relationships are impacted by the disease of addiction.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Sarah's story, Sarah's monomyth, totally reminded me to look up and see the quote unquote sprinkles around me.
Yes.
You know,
can I jump in?
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Sarah's or listened to her episode, go back, listen to her sprinkles. They're absolutely incredible.
Her use of that actually put that into my vocabulary.
Me too. I think about it all the time now. Maybe we should explain what a sprinkle is then.
Please.
So for Sarah, she describes these moments where God shows up in her life even though she's not deserving. And she can see him in those moments. So she calls them sprinkle moments.
Yeah. Very, very humbling. What she shared really, really humbled me in a deep way. Now, we can discuss how she faced tragedy after unimaginable tragedy. Like, seriously, go back and it's like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember even when I first heard the story, I was like, we can totally make a whole TV series just on the events of her life. But the one thing I actually dwell on is how she evolved her relationship with her younger sister, how she went from being this parental figure and looking at her sister as almost like her child. And now it's like this really fun sibling relationship. And they did that through co-hosting a podcast about books. And the thing about their podcast that really stood out to me and how I could see this being lived out in her monomyth is that a strong and shared sense of humor is medicinal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to go over about Sarah's story, but that was the thing that reminded me to go like, wow, in spite of it all, she's still able to laugh.
Yeah.
She was healing through humor.
Yeah, and if you listen to her podcast, which we'll definitely drop in the show notes, Sarah describes her sisters laughing as wheezing because they get laughing so hard during this podcast. It is medicinal. I do enjoy listening to them laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I think when I reflect on Sarah's episode, I think about her sharing where she says, I became everything I said I wouldn't become. You know, she repeated the cycle of addiction because she took it into her adulthood. And, you know, at one point she says, I was doing drugs and I was drinking. You know, I was doing all the things I said I never wanted to do. And I can relate with that. You know, growing up in addiction myself, you know, my parents were both addicts. And if you haven't listened to my Monomyth, I talk a lot about that. I could resonate, and it reminded me to give people grace. You know, because everybody's doing the best they can with the tools that they have at the time. You know, she didn't have any tools to do it differently. She had to get to that point in her transformation where she decided to be different and learn some new tools. So I really, really resonated with that part of it. We have a lot of similarities in our upbringings and the things that we took into our adult lives. It was a good reminder for me.
Those stories for me are hard because it's almost like sends you back in time. And you're almost you're reliving the pain, you're re-experiencing the emotions. And at the same time, it's also a nice little like, she did it and so are you.
Yeah.
So it's a nice reminder too.
Transformation is possible.
What I find so interesting, and we don't talk about this in their respective episodes, is that these two women who came from two different states, right? Two different worlds, two different family foundations. Mm-hmm. They actually now move in the same social circles and part of the same communities. Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild? How life is?
It is wild that they ended up leading in the same organization called F4, which I know we've talked about before. And again, we'll drop that in the show notes if you want more information about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, two completely different women who now have come together to build this F4 community, yeah. Right? And they're, you know, supporting other women and giving back. It's just beautiful to watch what these two, you know, amazing women are doing together.
Yeah. And it's so incredible to see how like those spirits can find each other. It doesn't matter how you started. It's always about how you're going to finish and how you're getting there. So we have call to action for you, our listeners, for our audience. We would love for you to share with us your personal reflections on Sarah and Nikki and how they have resonated in your day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and if you write in, we would absolutely love to share that reflection on a future episode. Thank you for joining us on the Monomyth Diaries. If this episode resonates with you or someone you know, we'd love for you to share it and spread the inspiration.
Don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube to stay connected.
We'd appreciate it if you could take a moment and rate and review the podcast. It helps us reach more people with stories of transformation and growth.
You can visit us at monomythdiaries.com or text us directly from the show notes to reach out and keep the conversations going.
Until next time, heroes, let's journey together through our monomyths.